Hello, everyone. As I introduced myself earlier, this is Medha from the branding and the comms team. We are joined here today with the team from Somni Finance as well as Inject Labs. Today, we'll be discussing more on the lines of what goes on in the Cosmos ecosystem and how are people building in their ecosystem. So we will start with our introductions, starting with Eric. If you could introduce us and what exactly is Injective Labs, how did you come across Cosmos ecosystem, and what is it that excites you the most about them? Over to you, Eric. The stage is yours.
Hey guys, how's it going? This is Eric Chen, co-founder and CEO of Injective Labs. So Injective Labs is a core contributor to Injective ecosystem, and Injective is a blockchain built for finance. It has a lot of modularized and special primitives that are heavily tailored for the DeFi developers to build their ideal application. And some of those core primitives include order book, derivatives, Oracle, and many, many others. And we also allow for self-executing smart contract and other native COSM WASM VM environment for any type of potential DeFi applications to be developed and to be tailor-made to utilize those primitives. And yeah, so I came across the Cosmos ecosystem, I think, back in around 2019, 2018 or so. And I think back then it was a really, really special time because initially we were when we were first building out a lot of the base layer infrastructure for Injective itself, we were actually looking for a solution to build like a hypothetical application ourselves, and we just realized that Cosmos has everything that we need, all the flexibility and a lot of the kind of key primitives and requirements for us to build a fully decentralized, on-chain order book based exchange.
Fascinating, fascinating. So, what are your intentions for 2023 with Cosmos and Inject Labs?
Yeah, there's a lot. I think like there's a lot of developer onboarding. There's a lot of overall hyper growth in the ecosystem, and I think the Injective ecosystem and along with the greater Cosmos ecosystem is just here for the ride. Really, enjoying the overall kind of attention and the overall inbound interest from developers, from institutional users, and also from general users alike for just the overall excitement.
Got it. Got it. Thank you so much for sharing that insightful information on how you're working with Cosmos ecosystem and how did you come about it. Moving on to Somni Finance. So I think Josh, would you probably want to highlight a little bit about your journey and a little bit about yourself and how did you come across Cosmos ecosystem? The stage is yours.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So I joined the Cosmos ecosystem as a user probably around 2020 and have really enjoyed it. I have a background in application-specific blockchains, having worked in the Polkadot ecosystem, and that's Cosmos bread and butter. And so at Sommelier, I lead some of our growth efforts, focusing on helping users get access to our automated DeFi strategies. And we have a custom built chain that helps facilitate that and serve other DeFi ecosystems across the space, including Ethereum. And we're planning to expand in the near future. So yeah, the Cosmos technology stack really enables us to do things that we wouldn't be able to do otherwise. But I think we may touch on that a little more later on. So I'll just pause for now.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Josh, for sharing that. I think Sudanand is our next speaker, who's also leading the head of research for Somni Finance. If you could introduce yourself, Sudanand, and talk about Cosmos ecosystem yourself a bit, and then we can probably open the room for discussion.
Yeah, hey everyone. I'm Sun. I'm head of research at Som. And I think, Eric and Josh kind of covered the core idea behind Cosmos, which is app-specific chains that are kind of built from the ground up. And that's like the key difference between, for example, the Ethereum ecosystem, where in the Som ecosystem, your app-specific blockchains, you have the, full flexibility of designing every layer of the stack, and that gives builders a lot more flexibility. So those are kind of the advantages of building on Cosmos. Sommelier in particular is like an interesting Cosmos chain because while it's a Cosmos chain, the products that the Sommelier chain builds are actually on Ethereum. And for example, those are DeFi strategies. So one thing that's interesting that the Cosmos stack allows us to do is actually build products on top of arbitrary blockchains, whether that's Ethereum or Avalanche or you name it. So at that's kind of what SOM is. At SOM, my role is a lot of leading the efforts on building these DeFi strategies and interesting vault products. And we can get more into that later. But yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for that. Is there so now we actually move on to the main discussion where we discuss what Cosmos is actually and what problems do they solve for? Because I realize a bit of our audience who's joined us today probably might not really know much about Cosmos ecosystem and how they're built, how they're actually helpful for the ecosystem in the DeFi and decentralized ecosystem. So, starting with Eric, if you could just give us a line or two on what is Cosmos ecosystem and what problems are they solving for? Is it possible that they are different from Polkadot and Ethereum? And little bit on that. If over to you.
I think it's very hard to, for me to pinpoint a specific problem that the overall Cosmos ecosystem is trying to solve, mainly because, all the exciting projects within the Cosmos ecosystem, like Injective, like Sommelier, are kind of tackling drastically, different infrastructure, different stack, and different type of use case. And it's all, utilizing, the Cosmos SDK and leveraging inter-blockchain communication. And I think the most important part is that Cosmos ecosystem is likely one of the best infrastructure to bootstrap a chain. It allows for kind of this out of the box, highly secure and highly symmetrical in terms of security, bridging ecosystem and composability ecosystem, and also just in general, data transfer ecosystem, and it kind of takes away a lot of the hassles and a lot of the difficulties when it comes to creating a new chain, building a new blockchain, so developers can kind of focus on the module level, the core logic level, rather than all the consensus complexities regarding building a blockchain. And with a lot of really exciting developments coming up, such as uh, um, uh, interchange security, etc. It kind of furthers negates a lot of the economic upfront costs when it comes to kickstarting a blockchain as well.
Absolutely. And I think Cosmos is the first entirely free platform to enable interoperability between different systems, including like, there's Binance Chain, Terra, and then there's like other places. I think Sudan and Josh, would you like to probably highlight a little bit about what is Cosmos and probably tell our audience a little bit about, the solutions that they are solving for and what's the structure like?
Yeah, I can take a first stab, and then Sun can add to it. So when I think of Cosmos, I think of two key things. One is, it's this network of blockchains. So each one is tailored to a specific use case. And then there's also this like native interoperability through IBC. So when you have a network of blockchains, like if they can't talk to each other, then there's a lot of issues, right? There's fragmentations of liquidity. It's very hard to to create some of that composability that users appreciate in DeFi, and builders appreciate that ability as well, that interoperability. So the fact that it's a network of sovereign blockchains that can optimize for a certain use case is, really beneficial. You get gains that you can't get elsewhere on generalized platforms like Ethereum or Solana. But then the fact that you can also harness that ability of each specific chain and make them interoperable, so now you get some of this rich composability. I think that's a true differentiator for the Cosmos ecosystem. Sun, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I'll just add that another way to look at this is from the perspective of a builder who's trying to build some kind of application, right? Whether that's a decentralized exchange or some kind of strategy provider, let's say, like a chain that runs strategies, which is what Som is, Som Finance. And from the builder's perspective, it's like, okay, you can choose to build your application on Ethereum, right? And what comes with that is you don't have to worry about things like consensus and security because you inherit that from the Ethereum chain. But you also inherit a lot of restrictions, right? Like you have to work in a language like Solidity or Viper, right? You have constraints um, in kind of what you can do there. What the Cosmos system allows you to do is essentially get rid of those constraints and lets you build your blockchain how you want to build it, right? And that's this idea of a network of blockchains, each with their own very specific trade-offs and each with their own fully customized setups. And Eric kind of hinted at it's very easy to spin up your own blockchain with the Cosmos system because there's a vast wealth of tooling that enables this. So, the builder's perspective is like you can build an app on Ethereum, but your hands might be tied for a lot of the more interesting things you want to do. And the Cosmos system essentially allows you to own the whole stack, to kind of tailor your blockchain to the needs of your specific application while retaining the ability to actually communicate and interoperate with various other blockchains.
That brings me to the next question, and you really well summarized most of the points that we wanted to discuss as well, which is on the lines of affordability, the perspective from a builder, the ease of kind of building on the Cosmos ecosystem. I think I would like to reiterate. Probably Eric mentioned a few about Ethereum, what is possible in the ecosystem in Ethereum and what's not possible in Cosmos. Is there any other points that we can discuss around the lines of how is Cosmos different from the Ethereum network, and what are the key benefits? I think some of them are already covered. Did we miss out on anything, Eric, if you would like to highlight that?
Yeah, I think one interesting point is that for some of the projects within the Cosmos ecosystem, like this module that a lot of the Cosmos-based chains are using, which is the Cosmosm layer, it actually has a lot of really interesting features, and the overall optimization, which a lot of the developers that we're seeing. They find it a lot more convenient. They find it a lot more kind of optimized, and they find it a lot more. It basically unlocks a lot of the restriction that they've kind of constantly faced within EVM and all the contract environments that they could find, and along with like the native kind of out of the box interoperability within the module of those Cosmos-based chains, these developers generally find it kind of extremely easy and simple and flexible in terms of building their ideal application, leveraging the native module in those chains, and really joining the ecosystem not because it has a very blossoming community, or because it has a lot of incentive in the system, rather purely on the virtue of being able to do something or being able to realize kind of their idea, because it's impossible to do so anywhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also got to do with the fact that Cosmos is a little bit probably more sustainable as an ecosystem to kind of provide developers the ease of designing and building their sovereign blockchains quickly and probably cheaply as well. In terms of any other perspective of Cosmos ecosystem, is there anything that probably we can talk about on the DeFi ecosystem that we see on the Cosmos ecosystem? Josh, we could start with you, and you could talk about your favorite project probably, or something that you find to be most interesting in the Cosmos ecosystem, the DeFi ecosystem. We would like to hear that from you.
Yeah, sure. So I think the we're going to see a lot of interesting activity within the Cosmos DeFi ecosystem over the next year. It just feels like things are near a tipping point. I sort of like some of the deck, like the exchange type use cases or DEX type use cases. So obviously Eric is on the Injective blockchain. That experience is very nice. Like the Helix DEX as an example, it mirrors some of the functionality you'd see on a centralized exchange. Like it's a order book style exchange, which is really novel within the DeFi sense, because you're typically seeing like a AMM type of exchange, like a Uniswap style exchange. So I think that's really interesting, and we'll continue to see that type of product set make great strides, within Cosmos this year, and then hopefully within broader DeFi. Uh, so that's one project that I really enjoy, and then the other is another exchange. It's called Osmosis. It's pretty well known within the Cosmos ecosystem. There's a lot of liquidity there, a lot of token listings, and the user experience there is just very smooth. They've also integrated with one of the prominent wallets within the ecosystem, which is Kepler. And so, from just the user experience perspective, everything is very seamless there. And so that's one of the things I uh, enjoy within Cosmos.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. Sudanand, would you like to also share your insight on that?
Yeah,
And
I think
you could add a
I'll
bit on the part where you see, any uniqueness compared to other DeFi projects that you see around. If you can add that because you have that insight, I'm sure.
Sure, yeah. I'll just add to what Josh said, which is that I personally am also like really excited by the exchange type applications that are being built. I think that's really kind of like one of the core pieces of DeFi infrastructure that's applicable to many people, even outside of DeFi right now, and it's probably one of the main levers to attract new users into DeFi more broadly. And I think there's a lot of interesting. First of all, there's so many various Cosmos projects. That's kind of the beauty of the Cosmos ecosystem, which is that you have like essentially unlimited freedom to build apps, and so you end up with these really diverse kind of app specific chains. I think Cosmos, as far as DeFi in Cosmos, is still very young. It's still very early, and we can see that it's growing very quickly as more apps come out, and as apps like Injective innovate. I think that there's a lot of interesting decentralized exchanges that are being built on Cosmos. Injective is one of them. As Josh meant, Osmosis is another. We also have systems like DYDX that actually moved to Cosmos, which was a big win for the app thesis, since that was like the most popular application on Ethereum. And it's at the end of the day, it's really about the user experience, right? So Uniswap v3 is like the most popular app on Ethereum now, and it's kind of it's done a good job of giving users that kind of the smoothness of a centralized exchange experience while having all the benefits of decentralized experience. And we're seeing more and more order-based dexes coming up in the Cosmos ecosystem, because it's very difficult to do this on Ethereum, right? And that's why you have systems like DYDX that moved to the Cosmos stack because it was just easier for them, right? So it's cool to see. I think we're early, and I think Cosmos DeFi is going to continue growing because, again, that's where it's convenient for builders. That's where you get the most flexibility in your stack, and so you can implement more complex and interesting applications.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. I think we all understand now what the functionality of Cosmos ecosystem is. How is it like different from other ecosystem out there when compared to Ethereum? And we also have discussed a few projects that kind of have been a kind of a highlight, and we are also exploring more that is there to uncover in the DeFi space. Eric, I would like to ask you the same question. How was your experience so far with building on Cosmos ecosystem, and are there some projects that you personally want to kind of mention out here?
Yeah, I think folks from the Somm team has done a great job mentioning all the overall like exciting DeFi projects within Cosmos ecosystem. So I'll kind of like highlight a little bit on those are just an injective ecosystem alone, and that's getting really really exciting beyond just Helix, such as ING Dojo Exchange, Dexterium, Wavely, Qwerty Exchange, White Whale. Front runner and all those projects that are, building a very very unique exchange applications, different types of dApps and different types of kind of community within the injective ecosystem that and all those applications are completely practically impossible to realize in any other ecosystems due to economic balance, due to kind of gas environment, and purely the native limitations on monolithic environments. And they found a home here within the injective ecosystem because it's the best place for them to realize their vision.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Eric. And Eric, just starting off with the fact, like a lot of us don't really understand what are the long-term implications of native interoperability. I think I'll start with you and then move to Sudanand and then Josh.
I think one of the sorry, what interoperability?
So, what are the long-term implications of native interoperability?
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting aspects is that the IBC ecosystem, which is powering all the Cosmos-based chains, has this very tightly coupled and really strong out of the box composability and kind of interoperability just by utilizing the Cosmos SDK. And this is extremely interesting and extremely powerful because from a user perspective, switching between chains, interroping, having cross-chain composability across various, app chains and, different types of blockchains have never become easier. I think a great example would be swapping between and bridging between all those chains. It can it's certainly abstracted away from the user's experience on the application level end. For Helix example, for Helix's case, it feels just like a simple deposit and withdrawal. It's one simple transaction for users to hop between maybe all the ecosystem. And so, from an application level, the users are accessing, the injective blockchain through a very simple click of a button. However, in the back end, it's all being powered by this very robust IBC ecosystem. And, over time, this is only going to be developed more and more with, interchain accounts, et cetera, that the line between different types of blockchains are going to be extremely blurred, and all those chains building on top of Cosmos or within the Cosmos ecosystem can really focus on what they do best, and doesn't necessarily have to kind of look for kind of like the core stacks within the blockchain, the bootstraps, such as exchange, such as domain names, and other types of unique applications that a lot of them consider to be kind of critical for a blockchain to go from the 0 to 1 stage. All of those are easily brought. All those can be easily brought over simply through IBC.
Wow, that was like, I mean, that was very, very comprehensive, and it explained what are the, kind of functionalities of interoperability, and over the period of time, what do we see progressing in the ecosystem where we have like this concept itself getting more mainstream when blockchains can interact with each other, and it's easy to pass on communication without much energy being, utilized. I think that's also something that differentiates Cosmos from Ethereum in terms of proof of work and proof of. I mean, is it possible, Sudanand, that you can probably highlight a little bit on this as well, on the what are the kind of implications of native interoperability in the long term?
Yeah, I think Eric did a great job of,
Yeah,
I don't have much to add on what Eric said, but I will add one small piece in the Cosmos vision, which is that it's the idea that it's not the infrastructure layer in blockchain systems that will accrue the most value in the long term. It's actually the applications, right?
mm,
And the
mm,
analogy is with the internet, right? Like it's not, internet service providers that is where the bulk of the value. It's actually applications like Google and Facebook and whatever. And
mm.
that idea is actually core to the Cosmos thesis, right? It's this application first based approach, and I think that thesis is will be validated as time goes on. And again, long term, I think at the end of the day, what users care about is applications. It's the user experience. And
Absolutely.
so Cosmos, with its app first based approach, is naturally positioned to grow as an ecosystem from that perspective.
Yeah, yeah. Amazing. So, Josh, do you have anything to add? I think we've found most of the answers for the implications for interoperability. Did we miss out on anything?
The one thing we could touch on a little bit is like what Sommelier would look like in the Cosmos ecosystem, thanks to some of this native interoperability. So, just for those who may not be totally familiar with us, we're a platform for automated vault strategies. So, they could be algorithmic trading strategies. So, you know, buy uh, ETH when it gets to this price, sell when it drops to another price. It could be portfolio management. So I have a portfolio of Ethereum and Bitcoin. Uh, Monitor that portfolio according to these rules, and just handle everything automatically, so I don't have to do it. So that's what our platform is, and that's what we offer users. We're currently serving the Ethereum ecosystem, but we want to expand to every DeFi ecosystem, and that would include Cosmos, right? That's our home. So thanks to some of this interoperability through IBC, we could do a strategy that's leveraging the technology that Eric's team has built on Injective, right? So that could be our trading venue. We could then, maybe the strategy requires some liquid staking capabilities as well. So you could go to the persistent chain, right, for liquid staking. And so because IBC exists and all these chains can talk to each other, you just have this rich array of different options for strategies, and how you can construct them, in an efficient and safe way from a technology perspective. So that's the only thing I'd add.
Thank you so much, Josh. And I think that was an interesting insight to complete the conversation. I would actually like to, talk more about Somni Finance and Inject Labs now. So what's next for Inject Labs, Eric, if you would like to highlight a little bit on that? And this would be like our last question, and then we can open the floor for questions.
Yeah, I think 2023 is probably one of the most it's going to be the most pivotal and exciting moment for the Injective Labs team. We've been really really hard at work on supporting developers, building a lot of really important features as we listen to their feedback and some of their wants and needs to be incorporated into the core modules of Injective. And on top of that, I think there are quite a few really really cool projects that we're contributing to, like Project X, that are going to be released and deployed, and a lot of really really exciting deployments coming up from some of the top projects in other ecosystems, etc. I think overall it's just going to be very very busy for us. It's very hard for me to pinpoint specifically one epic milestone for the year, but rather it's going to be like a constant barrage of new developers, new integrations, and new users.
Amazing. I actually had a personal question. Did you see any shift compared to last year, given the kind of changes that we all went through? Have you seen any behavior, or like change in terms of the interest in projects, or are you looking at the community that have they started responding more attentively? What has changed from the last year to this year? Because we're
There's a lot of change for sure.
Hmm.
First of all, being in this market, developers are, kind of returning back to roots and focus on, building unique applications to have true defensibility that's not fueled by incentives. I think, with that in mind and the overall, shift in narrative towards uh, um, decentralized infrastructure, DeFi, and self custody, and on top of that, developers realizing that uh, uh, they need to spend a lot of time and that they need to find uh, kind of truly unique features and truly unique value propositions for the overall DeFi ecosystem. That's all all accumulating together, and Injective ecosystem just so happened to be ready to welcome these new developers. And I think that's kind of like the main difference compared to last year, the majority of last year at least.
All right, all right. And I think that's an interesting change of events as well. So I move on to Josh, probably. If you could just highlight a little bit about what's next for you, and how have you seen things change from last year to this year, given the kind of landscape shift that we've seen in terms of not just like trust in centralized exchanges, or any institution that are that centralized. And we as I mean, I'm sure there's been a lot of rumors and negative sentiment. The markets have also been quite depressive. Is there any way that you could probably share us some pointers on what changes you have seen compared to last year, and what's your focus now?
Yeah, sure. So I think as a for Sommelier the project, a key focus for this year is going to be offering a wider array of strategies to our user base. So right now we have some trading strategies again that buy and sell assets at certain points, and that's all done algorithmically and automatically. And then we have some portfolio management solutions and also some basic lending optimization. So if you have a stable coin on Aave and you are maybe indifferent between stable coins and you just want to earn the highest yield, it'll cycle through a small set of stable coins optimizing your yield. So that's a few different types of strategies, but it's still not the entire universe that we want to serve. And so this year it's going to be really widening that set, having the ability for strategies to go short in this market. So, you know, um, the market's been pretty choppy and sort of downward. And so long only strategies or strategies that are dependent on prices going up have struggled. So offering that ability to go short and just integrating with other popular DeFi primitives is really going to open up the design space for our strategists and offer, you know, a wider set of strategies that can be successful in any market condition and serve a wide array of risk tolerances. So that's sort of one of the key focuses on our roadmap, and then also expanding to new ecosystems. So right now we serve the Ethereum DeFi ecosystem. Uh, we have a focus of serving other EVM compatible chains. So that could be Avalanche, that could be Arbitrum. If it's EVM compatible and there's a rich, flourishing DeFi ecosystem, we want to serve that user base. So those are sort of the two key focuses for us as a project. And then I'll just be brief on some of the differences. So I think this year users are really savvy. They've been through a lot, and so they want to have a deeper understanding on what's going on in the applications they're using. So where does the yield come from? Who has access to the funds? What safety mechanisms are in place? We've seen bridge hacks, we've seen projects rug. So it's really, understanding the inner workings of the system. And so that's the biggest shift I've seen. Obviously, um, you know, more and more people are understanding the importance of self custody and are appreciating the transparency that public blockchains bring. Um, so those would be some of the key differences I've seen thus far.
Thank you so much, Josh. I mean, you hit the chord in the right, places where it talks about the trust deficit and people are getting more user savvy, trying to understand the whole overall structure of safety and security and what is the best route to, get into DeFi or, and is there anything, Sudanan, that we've probably missed out while discussing on this? And if you could just also highlight what's the focus for some finance and what changes have you seen since from last year to this year?
Yeah, I think Josh, covered most of it. The I can say a couple of things, which is that we've seen like a great, washing out of much of the, superficial interest in DeFi. Definitely, a lot of the space is left, right? And the people who are still remaining are really the tech savvy ones and the ones who care about the technology and who believe in DeFi. And so, from a product perspective, there's a lot less noise and there's a lot more signal, right? It's much harder to build in a bear market, but the upside is that it's very clear when you're doing something correctly, right? When you get interest. So at Som, along with everyone else who's still in the space, we're heads down building, right? We're not distracted by anything else. And I think, as far as the vision for Som for this year going forward, it's really that, there's a great variety of DeFi primitives that are available in many different ecosystems like Ethereum. And a lot of these primitives are very complicated to use, right? They're very sophisticated and they offer a lot of options, but it's hard for normal users to kind of get these things and actually use these systems properly. And one vision that we have at Som is to actually provide a layer on top of this that makes DeFi easier to use, right? If you can offer a product, a yield earning product that takes advantage of a lot of these complex primitives, that's kind of a vehicle for users to onboard without necessarily needing to understand very low level aspects of blockchain. So that's kind of one of the things that I'm personally looking forward to this year, which is Som Finance kind of making DeFi more accessible and easier to use by being a layer on top that kind of efficiently uses DeFi primitives to earn users real yield, like Josh mentioned.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And I would like to open the room for at least three questions, and then probably we can, probably reconnect again. One second. We have Mario and Rick. I'm bringing you up, Mario. So if you can speak and just share one question to our speakers. I think he's just getting connected. I'm sorry, but Not possible for us to get all the speakers on board, but we'll take three questions today. Hello, Mario. Can you hear us?
Yeah,
There's a little bit of a background noise.
yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me too?
Yes,
All
we
right,
can hear you.
all right,
What's your question?
all right. Thanks.
If you could also yourself a little bit before you ask your question, that'll be great.
All right, my question is, I want to know what are your plans to stimulate the mass adoption between Web 2 and Web 3 into your project? And looking at the situation of the current beer market, like what strategies do you guys use in gaining mass adoption to your project? Thank you.
All right. So, Mario, if you could introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, I'm from Nigeria.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, Eric or Siddharthan, would you like to take that question? Like, what are we doing in terms of the adoption for Web 2 to Web 3? Is that a possibility to probably explore? Because we're also talking about an audience who already understands the difference between decentralized and, ecosystems and, DeFi exchanges and centralized exchanges. I think there's a huge gap when it comes to understanding technologies at this stage and still making sense of the ecosystem. Who would like to take that question? I would leave it up to Eric and Sudanand.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I
for
can. I
starters,
can. Go ahead, Eric.
sorry. Oh, yeah, I think for starters, like Cato recently became the first fiat on ramp within the Injective chain, and there's going to be a few more to come. And I think that is the most important gateway for Web 2 to bridge into Web 3, and because the native low gas cost. And the overall, low transaction costs and the gas-free experience on some applications on top of Injective, having that fiat gateway coupled with all those core features is what's going to be fundamentally the biggest driver towards greater adoption. And I think on top of that, the work being done by FrontRunner to abstract away the user experience of wallet management, key management, and also self-contained application. I think those are also going to be a huge driving force for mass adoption and mass migration of Web 2 to Web 3, and oftentimes without maybe the user even realizing it.
All right. Mario, does that answer your question? Sudanand, do you want to add
Yeah,
something to that?
Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that's
yeah,
a
yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's like one of the fundamental questions that we've been asking at Sommelier. And I can say one thing that so we've actually consciously thought about this, and we've made product decisions around this question. And one thing that I think we're doing that we're proud of is and that we think is interesting for the DeFi ecosystem is that basically understanding what a smart contract is like a really high barrier of entry for DeFi, right? Like there's not a lot of people who get that, and it's kind of removed from the use cases, right? So one thing we've been doing at Som Finance is all the strategies that are built on Som Finance are actually represented by a token. And it's always an easier onboarding experience to just buy a token versus understanding what a smart contract is, right? Understanding this kind of piece of code that contains funds. We've just abstracted all of that away, and we have what we call strategy tokens, which is a token that if you buy, you kind of get into the underlying strategy. And so these tokens are available on Uniswap V3. They're available on Injective, actually. And so this is kind of like a concrete step we've taken to onboarding new users, which is that you don't need to understand what a smart contract is, right? You can buy a strategy token and you're automatically onboarded into this secure system in a very simple and easy way for a lot of people to understand.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sudanand and Eric. And Mario, I hope that answers your question. Thank you for that. And we'll move on to the next person, which is, I think, Rick. We'll just wait for him to get on. Okay. Hi. Yes, we can hear you. If you could just ask your question.
Okay, thanks for bringing me up. Actually, my questions, I want to know what is the motivation or what does your project seems to want to achieve in the crypto space before you created this project? Thank you.
Sorry, couldn't hear that question. Can you repeat that? I think there's some disturbance from my network. I probably believe. If you could just repeat the question.
Okay, my questions, I want to know what are the motivations that made you to actually work on creating this project in the first place?
Eric, Josh, were you able to hear that? There's something about motivation to
Yeah,
shortlist.
yeah, I can take that.
Yeah.
So, you know, accessibility is really important to us at Sommelier. Um, you know, crypto is extremely powerful, but it's also really complicated, and we want to bring all the benefits of crypto to like hundreds of millions of people. So, DeFi is a really promising tool that again empowers a lot of folks, right? You have stable coins where folks can make payments, to anyone in the world. If their local economic regime is maybe not as strong, that's also can be a safe haven. It makes it very easy for folks to transact, to earn in new ways that maybe they weren't able to before. So there's all this potential, but it's just very complicated. It's hard to access. It's very time consuming. There's various security risks because some projects are audited and have really strong teams. Some projects are not. It's very hard to tell, what's real and what's not. And so for understanding the potential, but then also being real about the current state of DeFi, we've really focused on creating an accessible and safe experience for users. And so I think that continues to motivate us each day, especially with some of the centralized failures that we've seen this past year. Like it's very important to build this open, transparent financial system and bring that to as many folks as possible without them having to deal with all of the complexity of understanding what a smart contract is or spending all day by their computer or phone managing uh, things through like managing things 24/7 because the markets just move so quickly. So I think just accessibility and empowering the everyday user is really important to us at Som.
All right. All right. Rick, does that answer your question? I'm sorry I couldn't hear your question, and Josh really explained.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks a lot. It does answer. Good luck on your project. Thank you.
All right. All right. Thank you so much for joining us and also, sharing your question with us. We'll move on to the last question for the today's session. We'll add second. Justin. Hi, Justin. Can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Please go ahead, introduce yourself, and ask your question.
Okay. So my question is, what are your plan in the near future? Do you have any strategy to attack a new investor to your platform and keep them long time?
Sorry, you're asking where if you're interested in attracting investors?
Yeah. Can I repeat my question?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So my question is, what are your plans in the near future? Do you have any strategy to attack a new investor to your platform and keep them long time?
So you're probably talking about incentivizing, or if there's any token distribution involved in it. I think Cosmos does have that with Atom. I think would any of you would like to take this question, Eric, Suran, and Josh, in terms of describing, probably the native token that are in use in little bit of the benefits of people getting engaged with.
Yes, yes.
I can touch on some stuff briefly. So, whenever we launch a strategy, we offer incentives in our native token, which is SOM. So, if you deposit your funds in this strategy, again, that's an opportunity for you to earn because that's what the strategy is there for. But to give users additional reasons to try, we incentivize that activity for a short period, typically 2 to 3 weeks. So, say you put 100 USDC in a strategy, again, that strategy is intending to earn you additional um, funds or capital through just the workings of the strategy. But then we also offer SOM tokens, which have value. So that's one of the things we do. But I think, for everyone in this space, it really comes down to developing strong products because that's ultimately what's going to sustain the project long term. So I think for everyone across the board, it's building strong products that deliver real value, that have incredible user experiences, and that's ultimately what's going to attract the largest following.
Thank you so much, Josh. And I think that brings us to like the end of the session. It really melts down to identifying quality products, or teams who are actually working on projects that have a long-term vision, and they are ready to take acknowledgement of in case the community gives them some feedback, and how they approach that, and the vision for their long-term success is very critical for investors to also learn and follow, so that at the end of the day, the community itself can take care of the ecosystem, and also ensure that there is more trust and feedback that's been taken into consideration. With that, I would like to end the session and would like to ask our speakers who've joined us, giving their time, if there are any last words or any probably last few thoughts that you would like to share uh, for the session. We can start with Eric. Probably, Eric. Any lasting thoughts? Any lasting comments?
Yeah, I think 2023 is probably going to be the most exciting year for the Injective ecosystem and the greater Cosmos ecosystem.
All right. That's indeed, and hopefully that's going to be the way forward. Siddhandan, any last thoughts from you?
Thanks for listening, everyone. Glad you tuned in. I agree with Eric. I think Cosmos ecosystem is going to have a lot of growth this year, and I think bear markets are again the time when the real innovation happens. And glad we're all in this together.
Absolutely. And I think this year is mostly going to be about a year of resilience and building. While the market conditions, we might not know whether it'll improve or not, but a lot of us are engaged in trying to build more trust and, create structures that will help users to at least, see the value that we bring onto the table. And hopefully this year will be more about, finding some real gems who are actually credible enough to get the visibility that it deserves. And yeah, I think that's one of the things that I think at Kucoin as well, we're trying to focus as much. We have also launched our incubation labs, like application for different projects to apply for, so that we can support them in their vision and their dream. Josh, would you also like to share some few words to end the session? And I can't thank you enough for joining the session. We've had a really informative session, and some of us did probably understand the dynamics of using Cosmos ecosystem compared to other ecosystem, and why is it different from other networks. Leaving you to probably close the room and share your thoughts.
Yeah, sure. So, first, thank you everyone for joining and listening to us. Share why we were so optimistic on Cosmos. I think even though prices are down, for us at the project level, like things haven't changed. We're continuing to build this open transparent financial system. The space is continuing to progress. So like crypto is by no means dead, and so by sticking around now and continuing to be curious and try new things out, I think you're going to have front row seats to some of the next great applications in the space that may take off in the next cycle. So I would just continue. I would encourage you to stay curious and stay interested in crypto, because stuff is like truly happening. In these coming weeks, months, that is going to change the space and take it to the next level. So that would be my one piece of advice. And then also just give the Cosmos ecosystem a try. I know it's always hard to onboard to a new ecosystem, but the Kepler wallet is really strong. It's very, very easy to use. Uh, the Cosmos ecosystem is cheap, very low gas fees. It's fast. So it's not hard to try things out. Send some Atom to your Kepler wallet. Uh, you know, do a trade on Osmosis, do a trade on Helix. Try the ecosystem out, um, and just see if it's for you. But I think there's a lot of cool stuff going on. So I just encourage everyone to stay curious and interested in crypto.
Thank you so much, Josh. And I think that's how we should always look forward to this year, staying curious and also interested in at least doing and trying out these, projects ourselves. And in case there are doubts or questions, we are here as a community to kind of help answer all your questions. In case you want us to probably follow up on the questions that you might have after the session, please leave your comments on our comment section. I think overall we have had a holistic discussion around what the infrastructure Cosmos ecosystem is, why is it that the developers are choosing it, and the point of using this is also kind of creating an environment for developers to execute their whatever they're building at a cheaper cost, and the kind of various projects that are already onboarded, and how exactly this space is supposed to shape up. So hope to join again for another interesting session where we understand more about the ecosystem and we learn more from Eric, Josh, and Sadanand about the developments that they have seen themselves, and the team has been working tirelessly irrespective of whatever market conditions are. uh, I hope and we get another opportunity to share more updates. But thank you so much for joining us today and allowing us to share some insight into the Cosmos ecosystem. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Saranand. In case you have any more questions, you can always reach out to them on their Twitter handle as well as this post, and we'll be happy to revert once we get the chance to go through your comments. Thank you so much, and have a great evening, have a great afternoon, and thank you so much for the discussion today.
Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks everyone. Thanks, Meta.
Thank you so much. Bye.